Just at the front corner of the red brick building was a light gray concrete block with the inscription, "Dedicated in 1933." This block was significant. The year 1933 was important to the message. The block itself was nothing fancy, just a simple time marker, barely high enough to be noticed as visitors walked down the sidewalk towards the front entrance of the building. To the casual observer, especially those without interest in the history of the message, it might have been overlooked. For us, however, this was the most important part of the building. 1933 was the year that it all started. It was beyond my understanding how such an incredible series of events could be lost to time. The prophet said that in 1933, as he was baptizing hundreds of people in the Ohio River, as 10,000 people watched the service, a shining star came down from the heavens just over the prophet's head. A voice from the heavens spoke, announcing the prophet and the importance of his ministry. God wanted the people of Jeffersonville to hear his prophet, and with his own voice, he told them so. 1933 was also the year of the prophecies. As the prophet was walking to church, he had a vision of the events soon to come. He saw how the French would build a concrete line of fortification to block the soon-to-come invasion by Germany. He saw that President Roosevelt would take the United States into war, and he saw how the fascist leader Benito Mussolini would come to an end. He saw that cars would become more and more egg-shaped, while the women became more and more immoral. Eventually, the United States would elect a female president, and she would cause the destruction of the United States. According to my grandfather, the prophet buried this list of prophecies in the ground beneath the 1933 marker of the Branham Tabernacle. It was not kept there for future generations, for one of those prophecies described America smoldering in ashes, and the prophet described the hydrogen bomb that was aimed at Jeffersonville. The prophecies were buried, never again to be seen, and he and his family were the only ones to have seen the paper before it was buried. Nevertheless, this unseen paper was proof that he was a prophet. Myself, I needed no proof. I believed in the unseen. Just like the prophet often told us, look to the unseen. When I thought about the Branham Tabernacle, I thought about the red brick building. I never really thought about what it originally looked like or the history behind its establishment. I will never forget my surprise when I saw old photographs of the church as it first looked in the 1930s. The red brick shell around the building was added much later, as was the concrete inset describing its 1933 dedication. One of the photographs had a pentagram above the door, which was later replaced with an eagle. I will also never forget my surprise when another message brother and sister found the deed to the building that I knew as the Branham Tabernacle. At that time, the church carried the name Billy Branham Pentecostal Tabernacle. Seeing the date of the document, November 9, 1936, raised many questions. The church was a fundamental part of the beginning of the message. We had pictures of the church's 1933 dedication just as the building was dated. At first I thought, maybe the prophet used the church from 1933 and purchased it later. But I couldn't explain the name of the building. The prophet claimed that he was a Baptist minister and refused to heed the Pentecostal call at the request of his mother-in-law until 1937. The deed to the church simply did not match the background story that we had heard in so many sermons. I knew it was time to dig deeper into the early years of the prophet's ministry.